Welcome to the Inside Immigration Podcast. My name is Chris, and I am joined, as always, by my partner Jayson.
What's up, everybody?
You may be able to tell. Jayson is on the road. He's back to the region of his. That's not there. You weren't born in Florida, right? Like that's your.
I was not. Yeah, let's make sure we clarify that. um, I was not born in Florida. However, I lived here for 25 years of my 51 so far as we record this podcast. So definitely a good chunk of my life. And being in the most Florida place ever, broadcasting to you from the passenger seat of an idling Dodge Ram truck that I rented to help my parents move. We went from the population, the density of Orlando, where there's Wi-Fi everywhere, to Ocala, Florida, where there is no Wi-Fi anywhere except near the highway. And I just so happened to land upon the beautiful abandoned Waffle House parking lot that had a shade tree in it. So definitely on the road, definitely back at kind of where all my career started. Got to filter through a bunch of old butt connectors and RG45s that were stashed in my parents' attic. Some ProFlex RCA cables that were all immediately recycled. So
Right on.
the crackies didn't get it.
Hey, are you sure? Given you where you are you sure you're not sitting in front of the State House right now? Are you sure that's not the? It's not the public library.
I'm not in Tallahassee,
No, okay,
so
got it.
I'm in horse country, Ocala. So lots of horsies.
See, and
so there you go.
and my dumb non-Floridian brain says it's 85 degrees with 1,000% humidity. How can horses live in that sort of environment without just completely liquefying themselves? But hey,
Horses are resilient. So are cattle. I see cattle here, and I'm like, you're a cattle farmer, and I'm like, half of their cows are like meandering around in fresh water.
just chill.
Cows are actually pretty smart. Look at that.
Right on. The thing that we wanted to talk a little bit about today, and it's funny because it sort of comes up every once in a while, and it kind of struck me that this is a thing that CI guys are, we kind of think about this kind of stuff, and it's not unique to our industry for sure. I'm sure that these comparisons exist in every industry, but there are these weird hills that we're willing to die on, right? Especially as installers, right? And those hills are things like whether you prefer, zip ties in your rack or Velcro in your rack, or whether you're willing to use pass-through RJ45s or conventional ones, or what your tool manufacturer of choice is, right? Whether you're a Makita guy or whether you're Team Teal, whether you're Milwaukee guy or whether you're Team Teal with Makita or DeWalt or Ryobi or whatever your thing is. Although I think we could all probably laugh at the Ryobi guys, but
Oh my God, I was just thinking about how many first day techs roll up on a job with a Ryobi kit that their mom bought them
absolutely
for day one or whatever. And not to name anybody specifically on this podcast who that might have been, but I can definitely remember kind of looking around the shop and going, oh yeah, I've got Fisher Price and everybody else here has got the black and yellow DeWalt or whatever. I think those were the hot tools in the dark ages when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
I do. It is funny you mention that because I do remember rolling in on my first day with my leather framing tool belt because the piece of paper said that I needed a tool belt and a screwdriver and whatever. And yes, my Ryobi drill. And I remember the senior guy busting out his Makita, that you would load like an M16, with that old battery, right? And the handle was whatever. And just kind of remember getting raked over the coals for that one. Like, oh yeah, no, you need real tools. You need whatever. And I don't know, man, nothing wrong with Ryobi, I guess, for a homeowner. But yeah, if you show up on a job site, that's probably not the,
well, you're just going to be disappointed when it breaks, or you need that last critical of power that just from the factory never had,
right.
or the chuck becomes Wi-Fi from the end of the drill. Like just cool stuff like that happens, and you go, wow, maybe I should get some real tools. I only make that joke because that literally happened to me with my Ryobi drill, where I was trying to bust through a top plate, and it's like, and I
Right.
went to back it out, and it just backed the handle like off of the chuck. Like holding it, and there's a Fosner bit like shoved
Yep.
in a hole, and I'm like, yeah, this is where we're at, right?
It's there forever. I do specifically remember being laughed at putting a diverse bit onto my Ryobi to try and you know flex bit something up a wall or whatever, and the guy just looked at me like that is not going to work. And then mere moments later, the smell of ozone and magic smoke escaping, and absolutely was right. So, but
Yep,
not
absolutely.
not to get wrapped around the chuck on the tool thing.
Yeah, sorry, we went off on the tangent there, but I just had to say it.
Hey, I would say that is not an experience that's unique. Like that's definitely a thing, right? Like you show up, I don't know how many of you guys remember your first day, but it's starting to fade as I get older and older. But that is absolutely something that you showed up and you didn't exactly know what you were doing. You didn't really know what you needed to have other than what they gave you, on a piece of paper when you got hired. Like, what's a punch down tool? I have no idea. So you're wandering the aisles at Depot or wherever and trying to figure it out. And you know,
Before you figured out that ADI is a thing,
right.
or some of the low voltage supply houses that have those specialty tools, where you're like, where the hell did Jeff get that freaking wire stripper thing at?
Yep.
And of course, you you soldier on for years, your little alligator clips or whatever you're dealing with, and then all of a sudden you stop in to pick up speakers one day, and there's a whole section
Yep.
of what I mean, what were the ones like the simplified manufacturing? Like
Oh,
there were some like specific brands of that era that I'm trying to think of now that I've again
yeah.
left the chat of my memory.
When you first
uh,
roll in and find that section at ADI, it's funny you mentioned ADI because that was my first experience too, right? When you first roll in there and you're there for like, a couple of spools of alarm wire or an intercom system or whatever, and like you're waiting for the guy to pick your stuff and you kind of wander over to where the tools are, and like this world opens up to you like, wow, okay, that's a 45 crimper, that's this. And then like you get to the part where it's like the labor saving devices part where
that's the brand I was thinking of, LSD.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
why couldn't I remember that?
And and you find the hole saw cutter with the big shield around it so that you can hold the thing up to the ceiling and just not eat drywall dust while you're drilling this hole. And like it kind of expands your mind, right? Like here's all the things. Oh wow, there's multiple types of punch down tools, and there's multiple types of this, multiple types of that. And I think this is a good seg because that's kind of where I guess I first saw like these pass through RJ45s, right? And when I was doing this stuff, right? Like you're kind of low man on a totem pole, right? So you end up doing things like, putting the ends on wires and making custom length jumpers and doing all that sort of thing. Especially when you're building racks. And when you start out, like you need to get a feel for it, right? Like you strip that thing off, you push those wires out, right? You comb it out, you get it where you need to go, and your first whole bunch of RJ45s, they ain't great, right? Like
No, they're
they're
bad.
bad. Yeah, they're straight up bad. It's like if Jackson Pollock created a connector, like that's what your thing would look like, right?
You mean, what did they call that? I had a guy that I used to work with, and he would check out our younger techs, and when they would first do, it's like when you put on the ice cubes, make sure it doesn't have any hair sticking out of the back of it. Of course, the techs are like, "What the
What?
fuck
What
did
are you
he
talking?
say?"
Right? What?
Yeah, yeah. So they're in there like trimming it with scissors, and of course they've got an ice cube on with the wire strip back with a bunch of twisted pair, like unshielded, just hanging out through
Out.
the back. And of course, he comes around the corner. And he's like, "Nope." So I get the hair sticking out of the back of the
Fail.
ice cube, and it's like, "Oh shit! Okay, this is what I need to do." Exactly, fail.
Yep.
So yeah, until you've had somebody teach you, you don't. Oh, I was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
Yep.
but you made me think about that LSD thing with the speaker hole cutter in it, and you know, your mind is open to the possibilities of that, and then the first time you use it and you absolutely fucking decimate
Spin that
a
thing
drywall ceiling
as it skips across the
because you're
ceiling because you don't know what you're doing.
because you don't realize you're supposed to use it in reverse and stuff like that. Like there's all of these nuanced deals where you're just excited to cut a 6-inch hole in a ceiling with a stop sign underneath it. that I don't know, that whole line of brand this or brand that really brought me back to that moment of oh shit, this thing's dangerous.
Yeah. So, and so you go back to the 45s, right? So you're a junior tech and you're tired of lining these things up, and like when you're young, you don't know what a nipper tool is, right? So you're using your regular diagonal cutters to cut these
Oh
things down,
god.
and you see this thing, and it's like, oh wow, okay, I could just shove these wires. I'd make sure that the pattern's right. I shove these wires through. Doesn't matter how long they are. Crimp that thing, it cuts them off, and call it a day. And I remember grabbing some of these things and like using them on a job site, and one of the senior guys like absolutely eviscerated me, like saw I was
Oh
doing it
my god.
and was like, "Oh no, 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 no!" Like, oh, I'm pretty sure the guy ripped it out of my hands. But know, and and then
Wow.
and then goes off on this whole thing about like, look, this is you're introducing another point of failure, and you need to be able to do this right, and you need to be able to do it this way. And if the blade is dull when you shove it into the piece of equipment, it's going to arc or whatever. And like, I felt like taking a moment to kind of explain to this senior guy who'd been doing this for 20 years that like none of those are real things. And yeah, obviously you got to make sure that the blade is good and all that. But like, I mean, I've run into other people who like emphatically are against these things and who are emphatically for the pass-throughs, right? And there's absolutely both sides, right? Like there's you guys who will argue like, hey, that extra 10 seconds that you're going to save on every connector is going to add up to hours at the end of the week. Or, I had one of these things fail. I had a job where I got a bad bag of these, and every one of them, the connector fell out of place or whatever it was. And like, you hear these stories, and I mean, I don't know, a lot of these are anecdotes, and you always have a guy on a job site who kind of bullshits a little bit. Oh no, bro, I swear, it happened to my buddy. And but that is absolutely a hill that divides us as custom integrators is your pass-through 45 guys and your conventional guys. And I think I think it might even you might even be able to draw that line based on age or experience of how long you're doing it, right? Like the old school guys really seem to have a vendetta against the pass-throughs. And the younger guys are just kind of like, no, dude, it doesn't really work that way anymore. I've never had a problem. I don't get crosstalk. I meter all my stuff. I, plug this into the fluke and it looks great. And the old guy's like, what's a fluke? And, like that's
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't even know what a validator is. See, I
right.
think I kind of walk that line between like I think you should know how to be able to execute one that isn't pass through. Like you should be able to
Heck
skillfully,
yeah.
like it's just a skill set that you need to develop, right? But I'm all for efficiency. So I think in my time as an integrator, when I left, it was just as those pass through RJ45s were really becoming like, here's the tool, here's the thing, it's going to be better, don't worry about it. And it was right.
Yeah.
So I think we've already talked about making adapting to change your pillar strength, right? So not to call myself out, but I think in that regard, I think I'm team do what you like. But
Yeah.
I can certainly see the old guys being grumbly about, look, dude, if you can't master just this simple thing, you're going to have a difficult time when it comes to wire management, when it comes to
Right.
trimming out racks, or some of the fiddly detail stuff that comes along with AB
Well,
integration.
because it is a real good test in like thinking ahead and planning a couple steps down the road, and making sure that your jacket is stripped off to the right point, that when you cut these things to length, your end is going to grip the jacket of the cable instead of just being on bare wire and that kind of thing. And I think you're right. I think that's like the brown M&M test, right? Like there's no brown M&Ms in this bowl. Well, if I find a brown M&M in here, then I need to call into question every other thing, right? Like if you can't make an RJ,
Right.
if you can't manually make an RJ45, that sort of informs my opinion on you a little bit where, okay, you know what, this guy's going to pull wire and he's not really going to think ahead, and we're going to have problems here. So I think that's a really good point. That's a really good, like, middle of the road answer, right? Like, you need to know how to manually do this before you can move to the, the non,
Yeah.
the time saver, right?
You're not hanging a projector until I can see that you can crip an RJ45. Sorry, just
That's just how
there,
it is.
there's levels to the game. There's no clear path. There is like a tree diagram somewhere,
Right.
but it's kind of fill in the blank. You know what I mean? It's what do they call it? Like when you do your eliminations at NCAA. It's kind of like one of those
Yeah,
deals where you work to the middle to become a champion.
it's a March Madness tournament for sure. When you're
That's
it's
that's that's what I'm. There's the words.
it's
There's the word I'm
it's
looking
more
for.
like it's more like in a video game, right? Where you have like a skill progression, right? Like you've got to move your way up the tree, right? Like you can't.
Your skill points,
Yeah,
yeah. Fallout. I
there
need
you
to.
go.
I need to get the
Exactly.
friends with animals
Right. Right.
credit. So when I'm crawling under a house in Florida, when I meet a raccoon or a rattlesnake, I can charm it to go attack somebody else. It's
Right.
pretty cool.
Or get it to pull your wire for you. I mean, that's really, that's the move right there. Strap your wire to an ocelot
I
and
know.
send it out. Well,
I have heard of there being sales pitches in the past where there were people that were going to train animals to pull wires or pull jet line at least, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that they were definitely on drugs.
so and
That's
I don't know if it's, I mean, maybe you've heard this story too, but I've heard this story. I've never heard it confirmed, but I have heard the story of, the guy with, he's got a trained pet ferret and he can get it to, you know, he can get that thing, he can tie a jet line onto it and get that thing to run across a suspended ceiling, for 300 feet or whatever. And like, I think we've all probably heard, oh yeah, no, this guy does this or whatever. Or the guy that comes to the job site with his remote control car and puts it on the ceiling and has that thing drive across the ceiling with the jet line attached to it. I don't think any of that's ever been true, but you know,
I have seen a guy with a small compound bow shoot
I
a jet line across a warehouse.
I've seen the same.
Okay?
Well, LS Labor Saving Devices made a device. It was a slingshot with a fishing reel on it, and basically, you would pop the tile.
Oh,
You would stand up like on the top of the ladder, or whatever rung is safety wise, and then you would
sure.
fire that thing. You'd fire a weight with the fishing line attached to it across the entire place. And I have absolutely. They make that device. They still make it. But
Well, yeah. My cohort decided to go to Walmart and buy a girl's pink compound bow
outstanding,
so that nobody would steal it,
outstanding.
and then figured out how to make a weighted arrow so that you could take a the bucket of jet line and fire it, and you just see this jet line go zzz, and like son of a bitch, like the most redneck thing ever. Again, here we are in Florida, love it, but shout out to them.
He saved with that
Yeah,
one move. He saved the project margin right there, dude. I mean, that
I,
saved hours.
I mean, we did that a bunch in some of the big warehouse jobs that we did, where I was just like, "Hey, Martin, grab the bow," and I was like, "Why'd you pick a pink one?" He's like, "Would you steal a pink
Right,
bow?" And I was
right.
like, "You're a pretty smart cat, you know." You might be Eastern European, but you got some shit going on in there. I like it.
Resourceful people, those Slavs for sure.
Yeah, he was from the Czech Republic,
There you
and
go.
crazy. That's a story. It's a story for another day.
So speaking of stuff you do in Iraq and connectors and that kind of thing, the other thing that I found is, especially like, and it's funny too, because sometimes you see it on social media, like in some of these CI groups and stuff, where somebody posts a picture of Iraq and like the first comment is just trashing the person. The rack looks nice and neat and whatever, but like the person is trashing them because
Oh,
it's zip ties, right? Like the folks who, there's a divide here between folks who use zip ties in their racks and folks who use Velcro in their racks. And there's definitely both schools of thought. I happen to fall on the side of using two zip ties and Velcro on every single point of connector, plus, cutting it like it's a blade, so that anybody who has to service it comes out looking like, a Walking Dead character. Um, but no, there's a gulf there, right? Like, and you see it all the time, like that. Okay, that should be Velcro, that should be this, and like, there's two really good points to be made here. One is, these wires are never supposed to move again, right? Like, okay, these are all infrastructure wires. They are, they're zip tied. They're and obviously we're talking about accessible spaces, right? Like you'd never use Velcro on a Romex nail in a wall or anything like that, right? Like that's all zip tie. We're talking cable trunks and that kind of thing. Where how often are you adding a wire to that bundle? How often are you taking a wire out of that bundle? And like, what's the big deal if you have to clip a zip tie and re-zip tie afterwards? But the absolute fanaticism of the zip tie versus Velcro debate is crazy. And
you think about the kind of person that's so detail oriented that really matters.
right. Like, and that, I mean, I guess that's a good quality to have, but like, really? Like I could see, okay, I could see Velcroing inside of your rack, right? Somewhere that you might actually run a wire. But like if you're talking in a cable chase or a trunk or whatever that's coming down to it, like, dude, just zip tie that shit. It's going to stay in place. It's not going to, it's not going to go anywhere. It doesn't really matter too much. And, I mean, my only thing is if you're not flush cutting the ends of your zip ties and not making a pointy thing, like I will find you. I will absolutely find you.
There's a special place in hell that for people that don't know how to flush cut a zip tie.
Yeah.
It's under the 9th level. it's
right.
It's like in a basement, like just below the 9th level of hell, where you're like, oh, I didn't even know there's a bottom under here, but you're down there with the worst of the worst.
It's right. It's garbage that's buried, and then 50 feet of shit, and then garbage below that, and then the guy who doesn't cut their zip tie tails.
Exactly. Lava. He sleeps in lava shit.
Right. Right. Well, and that's another. It's funny because that kind of leads to the beginning of this whole thing, where when you find these specialized tools that are specific for CI, like one of the first ones I bought was a flush cutter, right? Like that will change your life, because if you're in there, and believe me, I started doing this with like lineman's pliers, and you're leaving that little 1/4 inch thing there, and I got yelled at for that, and and then you learn. But man, flush cutter,
like, because you just open some guy's arm up or cut a tendon with a little wick of plastic, like, oh my god, ruin your day.
Well, I mean, the guys I was working with, it was like, oh no, what did I do? Disturbed your track marks, and we moved on from there. But
I mean, you did grow up in New Jersey, so you gotta give it the road that it's due, right?
It's true. We're not all upstanding citizens, but
we've established that the Venn diagram of Florida and Jersey is close enough that there's probably an abandoned Waffle House somewhere up there that you could be broadcasting from.
I mean, I could find a Wawa. I'll be there at the beginning of July, so I'll find something. I'll find something good to broadcast from. Maybe a diner. That'd be fun, right? Like
Sheets somewhere.
Oh, bro, that's Pennsylvania. Now you're killing. Oh, that hurts. Oh, it hurts so bad.
You gotta go across. You gotta go across state lines. You never know,
man. No. But yeah, it's funny though, because we are like, I mean, and I think overall, I think that's kind of a sign of pride, right? Like you've got these strong opinions on whether it's this thing or that thing, and are localized to our industry. But I think that's people are proud of the way that they do their jobs, and I think it's more telling if you don't have a strong opinion one way or the other on what the right thing to do is. And it carries over into brands, right? Like you've got Sony fanatics, you've got Samsung fanatics, you've got LG fanatics, whatever it is. You've got this brand loyalty, at least as a tech, right? And the funny thing is, techs really don't have the power to make this decision, right? Like oftentimes that's a decision that's made higher up based on things like margin and and what the special is this week and what fits the job. Usually made by the salesperson.
Why did we sell the customer this piece of shit? Oh, it's the one that the customer wanted to buy.
Right. Exactly. It's the one. Yeah, it's the one that they said that they would go get at Best Buy. So you took it off the proposal, and then they, decided that they didn't have time to go to Best Buy to buy a TV, like you told them in the beginning, and now you're supplying the TV for the same price that Best Buy was selling it for, and not making a dime in the process. Not that that's ever happened to any integrator out there talking to you right now. But that's very much a thing. But you've got some brand loyalties, right? Like you got people who swear by Trinoff, right? You've got people who swear by um, wisdom speakers or Sonance speakers or, Origin or Kef or whoever. And,
Right.
it kind of speaks to we're kind of a tribal people. Right. And I think a lot of that is, it's a comfort level kind of thing. And, as reps, one of the obstacles that we have is kind of break, if you're not doing a line that we represent and we're in there talking to you about this line, it's kind of breaking a little bit of that, breaking that down a little bit and kind of getting you out of your comfort zone to, hey, I know that you like this. I don't represent that. I make no
Right.
money off of that product. So let me tell you about this thing that's similar, but it's got these following advantages and whatever. And I mean, that's for us, that's a big hurdle to get over is that sort of,
It's huge.
you know,
Huh.
yeah.
You,
And we're all tribal at the end of the day. Like we're all, we're in this tribe or we're in that tribe. And sometimes that helps and sometimes that hurts. And, it's kind of a funny thing again, because I mean, I remember being an integrator. Like there are lines that I will never, I would never, I had two bad experiences and that was it. And I'll never sell them again or spec them again or do anything else. And like, you know, sometimes that's all it takes. But yeah, that's a challenge. That's a challenge
yeah,
for
I
us.
think it certainly is, and I think even there's so many layers to that, right? Like you've got established business relationships, you've got people that have invested time and money and effort and attention into certain brands, and to try to pull them out of that investment or get them to pull off of that vested interest is a difficult thing to do and may not actually be beneficial to their benefit.
Right.
Excuse me,
Sure.
beneficial to their business, beneficial to their benefit. Jeez, sorry, I've been moving. My brain is fried.
Florida. It's the humidity, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, I really want to go in and get some, smothered and covered chopped hash browns inside this Waffle House. That's really why I'm
I,
so distracted. But
I'm not sure I've ever been in a Waffle House that wasn't at like 2 o'clock in the morning, like after a concert. I remember,
oh, it's
I remember this one, and maybe this is a typical story, but I remember, man, I went to a concert or maybe an event or something like in Kennesaw, Georgia, and I ended up, we got out of the thing and everybody was starving, and it's like Waffle House, and that's what we did. And 2 a.m. at a
yeah, it's
Waffle
dinner and a
House.
fight.
Yeah, we saw some fights. We had a waitress that was smoking. Like all of the, all of the bingo card items for going to a Waffle
Check,
House.
check, check.
Them all
Yeah,
off, and it was spectacular. It was so great.
that's great. Yeah, for both of us being greasy spoon
Hell yeah, man.
aficionados, it's right up there on the Mount Rushmore of trash ball establishments, and you got to love it. Like the fact that you can just watch endless reels on the internet about abandoned Waffle Houses, like when they're open and the stores like doors are open, but people can go in and cook for themselves.
Yeah,
Cool stuff like
just
that.
just help yourself.
I,
Yep.
that's really where the chef's kiss of
Yeah,
Waffle House comes through.
just spectacular.
Right, but like kind of thinking back to where we're at with the brand loyalty, one of the challenges that I've found in my career is again navigating the situation where it's not an inferior product. It's not. It's a solid competitor,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And to go into a situation where dealer B is fully into that product. They sell a little bit of the one that I sell, but yeah, that's their jam, right? That's that we lead with, and you have those conversations with guys, and I think it's important, at least from the rep side, of course, to just be sympathetic and be supportive. But on the other side, as a business owner, when you hear some of these pitches, like if there's somebody's really hammering on you or showing you the detail, like can actually draw out the benefit
Yeah.
of, hey, here's the program, here's why you'd want to do this, and here's the people that are involved with it. It's got to be really difficult to just be like, but my friend over here didn't do anything wrong. Like,
Right.
why do I need to go over there with you? And I mean, I think at that point it really comes down to, is money more important than these relationships in the game? And I think everybody in this industry and business in general has to wrestle with that a little bit, right?
I think it differs. I think there's a lot of, when you specify, and man, I don't know how we got on this, but okay. I think, I think when you're loyal to a brand as a business owner, as an integrator, when you're loyal to a brand, I think a lot of things go into that. Number one is probably your contact with them, right? So if it's a
They've been there for
yeah,
you.
if it's a direct line, right, and there's somebody, let's just use an example, right? Like if there's somebody at Marantz that you're comfortable talking to or whatever, or if it's your Marantz rep or if it's whoever, like if you have a good relationship with them and you pick up the phone and they answer your call pretty, almost every single time, right? Like within reason, that's a
You're
reason.
gonna
That's a
you're gonna
reason right
call
there.
that guy and buy that stuff for
Yeah,
sure.
every single time. Now, if they're having all kinds of problems, like let's harken back to the COVID days, and maybe those days will be here soon again. But you know, at the same time, you need to make business decisions where, okay, well, this brand that I absolutely love doesn't have anything in the warehouse, and I have 4 jobs that I need to complete within the next 2 months. They don't have any gear for me. I gotta jump ship. I gotta go. And that,
Right.
as a business owner, it tears your heart out, right? Like it sucks
Uh-uh.
because now you need to tell this person that you've had a great relationship with and they've been there, is that I have to make this business decision for the health of my business. This is not personal or anything else. And man, that day sucks. Like I can
Yeah.
from being on both sides of that conversation, like that is not a fun day for anybody.
In
And
there. Yeah,
you know,
both. I think you and I both in there. Ugh.
Sure. And and as the rep, you just kind of have to be like, "Hey, look, I get it, man. This relationship will continue at some point when we get our feet back underneath us and the conditions change, like, let's make sure we get back to this." But yeah, that stinks. And that right there, that's a big reason why a lot of people change lines, just right
Just,
there.
yeah, lack of availability, or that somebody did something collapsively horrible,
Yeah,
and I'm never buying that one again. Yeah, again, hard to like narrow down like why the people would die on that specific hill, but I mean, I think that zip ties and versus Velcro is certainly worth justifying civil war over.
sure.
So, like,
Certainly.
let's get there. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, having been in this industry for so long, if you're dying on any specific hill, it's either because you might be built that hill, you built a business or a life around that, and it's just that's your brand, that's what you're going to. Can't change it now.
Sure.
You know, good on you. But if you're a pure raw capitalist, you should be looking for every opportunity that suits your needs and fits your customers' wants, and you can make a dollar and be profitable with, right? So,
That's the end. That's the name of the game, right? Got to make sure you keep that business continuing and keep you guys employed. And sometimes you got to make a call based on that. And this is, it's coming, man. The empty ships are on their way. Like we're
all
we're
right.
we're
Well,
about to
yeah,
see
I'm already
something
getting
real
phone calls.
similar. Sure.
I'm already getting phone calls about, hey, do you have any of these, or do you know where I can get one of those? And I'm like, mm,
Yep.
no.
So and just to throw another plug out here for reps, but that is something that reps do pretty well, right? Is kind of keep tabs on who's got what and where it is, especially in times like this. And you may not call you may not want to directly call your competition, but call your rep. Maybe your rep can, have a conversation, work out a deal, do whatever, put you in touch. Like that's, believe it or not, we're not just here to shill the lines that we represent.
Not all of
I
us
mean, we
are.
are.
Let me just clarify that they're not all of us are here to just fleece you.
The good of us, right? Like the better folks. Yeah, that's something that, hey, if you got a good relationship with your rep, man, there might be something we can do and help you out. And these are it's about to get weird. It really is about to get weird. Unless this whole thing just, collapses the next day and all these tariffs just go away, things are going to get real strange over the next few months. And it's going to feel a lot like COVID. It's that COVID time where it was uncertainty and things are changing every day. well, for what it's worth, we're going through it too. we might,
Yeah,
you know, we might be in a position to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. I know we're
you'll
a
be able to
pirate
go
ship, but
outside without a mask on, though.
yeah, right, exactly. You can get closer than 6 feet to the person in front of you if you want to, and you don't have to wear a mask all over the place. That I mean, you're
Yeah,
you're in Florida,
no
so pretty
vaccinations.
sure that's against the law to wear a mask anyway in Florida. But you know, yeah.
Hey, it's fine. Hey, you know what? I've got one right here. It's only because I was cleaning my parents' house. You know how hard this was to find? Not easy, buddy.
Is that right? Wow, there's still a
That's true.
okay. Still having PPE shortages in Florida. You heard it here first.
No, no, you just got to go to the Walmart paint department. They're all over the place,
There you
but
go.
don't look for one at Walgreens. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, listen, we will let you get back to hauling your childhood memories out of your parents' house at the back of your
Yeah,
oversized Florida appropriate truck. And
my labor saving devices, glow rods, and the one with the dagger points so you can stick it
heck yeah.
through
Yep.
stuff, all that good stuff. Yeah, a bunch of dead butt connectors that all went to the recycling bin in the ground.
They'll be floating in the Great Garbage Patch in about 6 weeks.
Yeah, they'll wash up on a beach in Bali somewhere sometime soon.
Right.
It'll be great.
Not our problem. But
No.
but yeah, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the time you've given. And if you have any suggestions for hills to die on in the CI industry, man, reach out. Let us know. We'll bring it up on a future show and give us something to talk about.
Absolutely. Check us out on the Instagram at inside_integration. And if you listen this long all the way through this, what are you doing? But we thank you. We're grateful. And take care, everybody. Bye bye.